In the 19th century, China's military was pretty much a mess, with soldiers that lacked basic training and understanding of contemporary machinery. Now they've grown to become the largest military superpower in the world, and we're going to find out why that is. In order to understand the condition the Chinese military is in now, we have to look to the past. So let's go over a brief history of the Chinese military. China's army, known as the People's Liberation Army, or PLA for short, was founded on August 1st, 1927, and has grown to become the largest military force in the world, with over 2.1 million personnel. Initially referred to as the Red Army, the militia was created out of necessity after the Shanghai Massacre of April 12, 1927. The massacre was carried out by Chiang Kai-shek and several factions of the Nationalist Party of China. Their goal was to take over communist leadership and prevent revolts by oppression of the communist population. Despite this, throughout 1927 there were many communist rebellions, one being a revolt from within the Nationalists' own forces, which is how the Red Army was formed. These conflicts are what began the Chinese Civil War. The war continued but was essentially put on hold from 1937 until 1945 by the larger threats of the Second Sino-Japanese War, as well as involvements in World War II. The fighting resumed on 1945 until it died down in 1949. There was no treaty signed establishing a clear victor, and some people to this day actually still debate whether or not the war really ended. However, after the fighting stopped, the newly established People's Republic of China was run by communist leadership. Later, control of the People's Liberation Army was officially given to the government through a series of reforms. Since the early 2000s, the People's Liberation Army has gone through quite a reconstruction period. Existing divisions were modified and new divisions were created in order to increase the effectiveness of their operations. The size of China's military is actually being decreased from having 2.3 million active personnel in 2015 to currently having just over 2.1 million. Focusing less on quantity and more on quality has proven to be a very efficient method for modernizing their army. This change came about when military advisors realized that the People's Liberation Army had little influence outside of regional, land-based operations. This also brought them to change how they divided their forces throughout the country. Because of China's large land area, command of the PLA had been split into 7 regions until 2016. After a change in the service branch's liaison, their military regions were reconstructed into 5 areas, known as the Northern, Eastern, Southern, Western, and Central Theater Commands. The service branches that operate within the theater commands are the Ground Force, Navy, Air Force, Rocket Force, and the Strategic Support Force. China has the largest ground force division in the world with over 1.6 million personnel, which accounts for more than half of the Army's total 2.1 million strong forces. They have access to approximately 9,000 armored fighting vehicles, 2,000 self-propelled artillery, 6,000 towed artillery, 8,000 combat tanks, and over 2,000 rocket projectors. Their Navy is quite expansive, and actually has more operable vehicles than that of the United States Navy. It consists of 73 submarines, 39 corvettes, which are a small type of warship, 50 frigates, 29 destroyers, 220 patrol craft, 29 mine warfare vessels, and 1 aircraft carrier. They have the 3rd largest air force in the world by number of aircraft, above South Korea and India, but behind both Russia and the United States. There are over 1,000 fighter aircraft in their arsenal, and over 1,500 attack aircraft. They also have about 700 transport aircraft and nearly 500 attack helicopters. China has more nuclear weapons than the UK and India, but slightly less than France, and are completely dwarfed by the United States and Russia. Estimates of China's nuclear arsenal put the amount of warheads they possess in the range of 200 to 300, but some estimates put it as high as 400. The PLA's rocket force is in charge of maintenance and transportation of these warheads, as well as ICBMs and other strategic missiles. The last branch is the Strategic Support Force, which was created relatively recently, about 2.5 years ago at the end of 2015. It has a complex role in assisting the other divisions, and is also responsible for resisting electronic warfare and cybernetic attacks. Its forces are a combination of the other branches, which, as Admiral Yin Zhou states, give support to combat operations so the PLA can gain regional advantages in the astronautic, space war, and network war. When it comes to how they rank internationally, China's size, as well as their rapid modernization, has put their military at the 3rd most powerful worldwide, in front of India and Japan, but behind Russia and the United States. the People's Liberation Army actually continues to shrink as it gets more powerful, due to the stress of quality over quantity. China's potential for military growth is currently greater than that of any other country, and it's been showing. Their population, access to resources such as petroleum and iron, in addition to being the largest export economy in the world, are what supports this increase. Evidence suggests that at their current growth rate, they could be the United States' equal in terms of military power in 30 to 50 years. The growth of the People's Liberation Army has been enough to spark tension between the two superpowers, with China expressing their eagerness to decrease the influence of the US in the East. This would facilitate China's ability to flex their superior military force over countries that have allied with the US in the East, allowing themselves to gain control over disputed waters, such as the Sea of Japan. Because China has one of the largest influences on a global scale, their demands have the potential to heat the political climate between the West and East. Thanks for watching. You can follow me on Twitter at @meta_galactic, where I post about videos I'm making or plan to make. And as always, if you have any feedback, leave it in the comment section and let me know what you'd like to have discussed in a future video.